Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm in my Tesla Model Y. This is my 2022 Model Y. It's filthy right now. It's winter time. I just had a big snowstorm, so I'm taking it to the car wash. I want to talk about towing with your Tesla Model Y. Now, I've never towed with this Tesla Model Y before. I have the tow package, the tow hitch. It is an upgrade on the Model Y, and I don't know if it's included or if it's just an option on the Model X. But the Model S and the 3 can also add a tow hitch to those, and you can do a little bit of towing with that. This came up the other day. A buddy of mine, who's my neighbor, and we're always talking cars, he just picked up a Tesla Model 3, a 2019 mid-range Model 3, and the previous owner of that added a tow hitch to that, the smaller one, so you're not towing you're not towing anything heavy with that. I think the Model 3 tow rating is like around 2,000 pounds, and the Model Y probably isn't a whole lot more than that. You don't probably want to tow a whole lot more than that. But my buddy Jason is kind of just getting used to the Tesla stuff, trying to understand how the range works, charging, road trips. I've done some road trips with Tesla, so the other day he gave me a call and he's like, hey, I want to drive, we live in northern Utah, he wants to drive his Model 3, which the battery charges up to about 230, 225 miles of range total. He wants to take that on a road trip from northern Utah down to Mesa, Arizona, which is about a 700 mile each way, so 1,400 mile round trip, road trip. But the catch is he wanted to take a motorcycle trailer on the back of it and have a small little motorcycle trailer with a motorcycle on the back of the trailer, and he wanted to drive that down to Arizona and then back and drop the motorcycle off, basically. And so he's never done a road trip in it, and I'm like, hey, first off, even though the car says it can do 230 miles of range, realistically, when you're driving on the highway, you're going 80 miles an hour, you've got wind resistance, you're running the heater, the AC, you're not going to get 230 miles of range. So just know that if you're looking at Teslas or an electric car, usually the stated range is not what you're going to actually get, especially on higher, like longer road trips. It just, for whatever reason, you just don't get that range. Just like with a car, when you're looking at the MPG, sometimes you don't get the stated MPG if you're going faster than the speed limit, if you're going, you have elevation changes. There's a lot of factors that go into that, and I'm like, really, you would get 230 miles of range if you have extremely flat road, if it's 65 degrees outside, and it's slightly downhill, really. I mean, that would be the way to get that. My Tesla Model S I have, in addition to this car, has about the same amount of range, about 230 miles of range, and I can probably go about 170 miles, between superchargers if I really needed to. Usually they're not perfectly spaced out every 170 miles, so I've got to stop every 110 or every 120 miles or 100 miles. So it just depends on how far they're spaced out. So when you're looking at a Tesla, just know you're not going to get the stated range. So you're probably going to get, a good estimate is about 75% of what the range states, okay, if you're looking at a road trip. So if your car says it can go 230 miles, you can probably get about 170 miles out of the battery before you need to stop and recharge. Okay. Now, if you're towing something behind the car and you've changed the aerodynamic profile of the car, and there's more wind resistance, there's more drag, there's more weight to it, that's going to significantly change your weight. So I went to the internet and did some research and just wanted to hear about other people's experience towing with Teslas, and a lot of people have consented that towing something this guy specifically, I read a guy's post that he towed a motorcycle and motorcycle trailer on the back of his Model 3, and he got about half of what his usual range would have been out of the car. So with that, calculating that into the equation, if you can realistically get about 175 miles out of your car, which says it can go 230, you could maybe get half of 170 miles, which about 85 miles or something, right? Maybe 90 miles you can get. Maybe realistically you can get maybe 100 miles out of that car before you really need to stop and charge. And you'd need to go slower to maybe extend that range. But something happens with Teslas when you're towing with them and you're adding that drag and that weight. Even if you add some kind of a cargo carrier, you have a bike on the back that just changes the wind profile. These cars are aerodynamically designed to really maximize efficiency when it comes to aerodynamics. And if you change that at all, it really affects the range. And so I think I talked my buddy out of going on his road trip to do it's 1,400-mile round-trip road trip towing a little trailer with this Model 3, especially since he hasn't done that before. Now, the big hindrance to that, supercharger stations that you have to stop at, all the ones that I've experienced is you have to back into them. They're up against a curb, you have to back into them. If you have a trailer, you're going to have to disconnect the trailer and back into that. So it's going to add even more time, more frustration, more hassle to your towing situation if you only get 90 miles of range and then you have to unhook your trailer every 90 miles, set it aside, back into the supercharger, charge up, re-hook up the trailer. I've actually seen a guy do that at a supercharger. He had this like really beat up old trailer. He was carrying stuff and he unhooked it and parked it over on the side. And I watched the whole thing. I'm like, wow, what a hassle that would have been to do that, especially if it's a heavy trailer. Like if it's a light one that you can just like lift on and off really easily and maneuver around easier, like maybe that's not that big of a deal. But if you're carrying, a 1,500-pound trailer and you're maneuvering it around and stuff, I mean, I just don't see how that's even realistic at all. And that's really the big hindrance. So not only are you getting half of your actual range, but the supercharger situation is another challenge. And I think Tesla really needs to fix this, especially with the Cybertruck coming out. We're in 2023 right now, but the end of this year, in 2024, when these trucks start getting delivered, people are going to tow with these things. And you can't stop at these superchargers and if you have a trailer on. I've only been to a couple. There's one in Baker, California that's like a pull-through stall style supercharger, and that one you could realistically pull through, but you would be blocking another stall for someone else to charge. So blocking other supercharger stalls or having to unhook the trailer is just a real hindrance to that. So I would say you can tow, like I think where these cars can do good at towing is, let's say you have a little utility trailer and you tow it to Home Depot to pick up some wood or some supplies or to haul some furniture around town, stuff like that. It can do fine at that. There's no problem there. It can easily do 2,000 pounds. There's no problem there. But towing like long distance, towing on a road trip or something, that's really where you're going to see the degradation in the range. Is really that towing situation, and so I would highly advise against that, especially since I've done a lot of Tesla road trips, and I know how frustrating it is when you can only go 170 miles, or the superchargers are busy, or it just takes 40 minutes to charge up at them. This is with like an older Tesla that can't charge at the higher 250 kilowatt charging speeds. Like my 2015 Model S can only charge at like 75 kilowatts. I think technically it's 78 kilowatts, but it just can't charge up as fast, and it takes a little longer to charge them. And so towing just really accelerates the frustration when you're looking at Tesla. So I would advise anyone against doing that, unless it's like around town towing. That's fine, but the supercharger situation is probably the most difficult to deal with because of there's no access to the supercharger. So leave down in the comments down below if you've had any experience towing with your vehicle. I've really only used my bike rack on this car and haven't gone very far, so I haven't really seen any kind of noticeable range decrease. But I've watched a few videos where someone's even had just a bike rack on the back, and just the bike rack and bikes on the back changing how the aerodynamics of the car has decreased the range of the car. So it seems like the cars are very sensitive to those things, and so I would just advise you, if you're planning on towing, make sure you're very familiar with the superchargers you're going to stop at. Be comfortable with unhooking the trailer, hooking it back up. This is where gas and diesel vehicles are just excel in towing and road trips. Electric cars just can't compete in that situation. You can't beat the convenience of pulling into a gas station and in 7 minutes you got a full tank and you're on the road again. And gas stations are everywhere. So towing and road trips, that's really where you almost still need to have a gas or diesel vehicle to really manage those. Guys, well, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you found this helpful or informational. Leave your towing experience, what your experience has been with towing with your Model Y or Tesla Model 3, XS, whatever it's been. If your results have been similar to this, that you're getting like half of the range when you're towing something. Anyways, Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.